MTG Scoundrels, it's in the cardboard. Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have ourselves some Affinity in a mirror match versus Affinity, and of course my low voice. Getting things started with a starting town, tapping it for 1, taking a damage it looks like, for a Pinnacle Emissary, into a Mox Opal, triggering the Pinnacle Emissary, making a 1/1 flyer there, tapping the Mox Opal for an Emery. That'll mill 3, or excuse me, 4. Alright, some interesting stuff in the bin. And passing the turn, that Pinnacle Emissary should be warping out. There we are. Tap Steam Vents and pass. Here's an island. Interesting thing about Affinity, it is in fact the second most played deck in the format, and arguably in the top 5 of the best decks in the format. I would guess maybe the second best deck to Boros Energy, but in some ways it may just be Magic Online players spamming Kappas. But it is powerful when it does its thing. So here we are, Emery targeting the Pinnacle Emissary and casting the Pinnacle Emissary. Not having to use any painful mana off the starting town. Here's an Ornithopter, that'll make another dude. And then attacking in for 1. That'll bring us to 1919. There's a Saga into a Weapons Manufacturing, into Welding Jar, into Claws of Gix. So 2 weapons manufacturing triggers, making a couple munition tokens. We don't tend to get too many of these mirror matches up on the channel, but they are important. So when you get the opportunity to get them up, you try to get them up on the channel. Though sometimes, especially in these Affinity matchups, they tend to be pretty swingy. Now, looking at the board, you can tell the Affinity player there on the left, in fact, is building up to a Kappa, or at the very least, building to a point where they can start using the munitions tokens to clean up the opposing Affinity player's board a little bit. Here's 2 mana. Make that 3. Deciding to cast the second Pinnacle Emissary. That'll make things a little bit tougher. I'll get another drone. Here's an Emery. So now that board is going to swarm with tokens here. Emery targeting the Mox Opal, replacing the other Mox Opal. That'll make 2 more drones. If there's a Kappa in hand, there's more than enough permanence for it. Speak of the devil, there it is. So interesting fact here, unlike weapons manufacturing, with the Pinnacle Emissaries in play, the Kappa isn't going to see any counters come on it from the Pinnacle Emissaries. Looks like figuring out how they want to tap their drones, even though some of them don't have summoning sickness. So the Kappa will gain a counter from itself entering, but it will not see the other 2 drones enter. But either way, that is a board to contend with. Yeah, one of those Pinnacle Emissaries is summoning 6, so that's only 3 coming in. Passing from there. If this was a turn earlier and engineered explosives would do a lot of work. That Saga triggers. Here's an island. Okay. Looks like a Kappa Cannoneer on their own. Of their own, excuse me. As I mentioned earlier, the weapons manufacturing triggers off the artifact entering. So the Kappa will see the munitions token. Speaking of a munitions token being used, Claws of Gix being activated, destroying one to take care of the opposing Emery, dealing 2 damage to it. Let's see what's still in hand here for... Yeah, okay, that's a Misty Rainforest. 2 mana. Well, that's an Arcbound Ravager. That'll trigger the Kappa. And then 2 more counters from the Pinnacle Emissaries triggering. And at this point, I think the... and there's a Memnite. That's going to get 2 more. Well, 3 more counters, 2 more drones. So the Kappa's unblockable. It's going to attack in here. And if done right, the Arcbound Ravager is ultimately going to do enough. So, attacking him with all the drones, and the Kappa sacking all the drones to the Arcbound Ravager to eventually sacrifice itself for a modular trigger to put all the counters onto the Kappa. And that'll do it. First match. Going to Affinity. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you to you all who have checked out our last video, which was Belcher versus Broodscale combo. Heck of a match there. And definitely worth your time if you're interested in those 2 decks. And of course, check out our format video that we did a couple months back, going over what you should play in Modern in 2026. We have a new version of that video that's going to be coming out here in the next week or 2. Of course, we got a little sick, unfortunately, and had some other circumstances get in the way as well. So, definitely check those videos out and be on the lookout for the next one here on the horizon. Moving on to sideboards. You're not going to see too much brought in from either side. Mostly Mystical Dispute, Hurkyl's Recall. That's about it. Some Vexing Baubles too. You can see Vexing Bauble come in here. You're not really going to see much in terms of Consigned in Memory. Mostly because you don't have a lot that's going to be able to target the opposing player's Kappa. So Hurkyl's Recall is your best bet in terms of dealing with the entire board. And really your best option. Granted, Mystical Dispute can also counter your opponent's Kappa, and that matters quite a bit here. And you're already playing 3 main deck, or up to 3 main deck Metallic Rebuke. Some people play more, some people play 2, you never know. And you're not going to bring in something like Whip Flare here, because that doesn't hit artifact creatures. And that's something you kind of need in this matchup a lot. And of course, if you can land a bunch of zero-costed spells and then get a Vexing Bauble on the board, that does really slow down your opponent's board state. So that is not a bad option here whatsoever. Moving over to our ads, check out our friends over at Grove Ordering Games, host of our channel and a wonderful place to storm out. Link to their website is in the description below, and we are excited to work on some new projects with them, so definitely check them out and be on the lookout for that. Also check out our friend Sean Gerard, artist at the channel. They're open to new projects, whether you're looking for something professional or a gift for a friend. Instagram up on the screen, and email in the description below. And of course, check out our socials. We are at MTGScoundrels over on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook. Most active over on Blue Sky and in the comments below. Definitely let us know what deck you want to see at the Pro Tour this weekend. And also give us a follow over on Moxfield as we post all our deck lists over there, unless the individual gives us their link to their Moxfield. So definitely check that out. And with that, we are getting started for game number 2. Looks like both players looking at 7s. And keeping them, starting off with an Urza's Saga and passing. It's kind of incredible how the first 1 to 2 turns are very key for these Affinity matchups. Granted, you could say that with most of the format, but it's especially critical here. Who lands Kappa first? Who puts the most permanents on the board? Here's a starting town. Passing from there. Drawing for turn, Saga Trigger. Probably just going up to 2 here. There's a Spire Bluff Canal. Into a Weapons Manufacturing. That's what you want when you're on the play. Claws of Gix. That'll make a token. And passing. Sacred Foundry, fetching here. These Affinity lists are different from each other. The Affinity list on the play now is playing some green and is playing a couple more legends than normal. Probably more like the Izzet Cutter lists. Well, the Izzet Metalcraft Cutter list. And you saw it in the graveyard earlier in the first game, but Beckon Call is being played here as another draw engine. Speaking of, there's Breeding Pool, deciding to manage the life total instead of having it come in untapped. And passing. Floating a mana off the Urza's Saga. Finding a Mox Opal that will trigger the Weapons Manufacturing. So now 4 artifacts on the battlefield and 2 mana. So if there's a Kappa in hand, could just slam it. But you do kind of have to think about Mystical Dispute. Oh, just playing the Vexing Bauble here. I see. Land for turn and passing. Well, that's really going to slow things down for the opposing Affinity player. Playing a land for turn. 2 mana. That's one thing about these Affinity lists. They have more than one axis to kill you. Weapons Manufacturing, Claws of Gix, Engineered Explosives being one of a couple of options there. Speaking of Beckon Call, here it is. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. Taking 1 off of the starting town. And here's Pinnacle Emissary. Oh, that's going to get hit by a a Metallic Rebuke here. So no card drawn. No extra tokens here. Emery getting played. Milling 4. Ooh, hits a Kappa Cannoneer. And passing. This game could get out of hand quick, if it hasn't already, but there is 3 open mana. Ooh, second Pinnacle Emissary. Okay, here is how the Affinity player rebuilds. Can't play 0 mana spells. Well, you can, but they do get countered. Here's a Shadow Spear. That'll make a drone. Mishra's Bauble, that'll make a drone and get countered. Here is a Mox Opal that will also get countered and make a drone. Mox Amber, that'll get countered and make another drone. I don't know why they're going to exile over there, but they should just be in the graveyard. Moving to the end step. Gonna crack... Well, I think he needed to do more than that. Yeah. Needed to crack 2 to kill that Pinnacle Emissary. But the Affinity player now has a board. Staring down that Weapons Manufacturing and that Emery. However, that Emery can target a Kappa. There's currently enough there that there's not much the opposing Affinity player can do about it. Okay, here's a Sink into Stupor, going to 17, playing it as a land. Here's Emery, going to target the Kappa Cannoneer, and then cast the Kappa Cannoneer. I'll get 2 counters. 1 for entering, 1 off of a munitions token. Passing from there. Two mana, attaching a Shadow Spear. Oh, no. Yeah, no, that is true. Attaching the Shadow Spear to a drone. Attacking in for 5 and gaining 2 life, and then casting an Emery. A little mishap there. Make sure to call a judge when that happens. Okay, there's a Krang. Won't be used right now, but that is a way to refill the hand here. Sitting at 12 to 20. There's a Pinnacle Emissary. That'll trigger the Kappa twice. Claws of Gix. That'll trigger the Weapons Manufacturing and the Pinnacle Emissary, putting 3 counters on the Kappa. Kappa is large and in charge. Here's a Mishra's Bauble. It looked like must have cracked the Vexing Bauble on end step. Sorry about that. Let them draw a card, though. That Kappa is large and in charge. Cracking the Mishra's Bauble, targeting the opposing player. Here's Emery, casting a Mishra's Bauble. So this Kappa This Kappa is incredibly large. Attacking in for at least 15, I think. Bobble targeting, and then in a point where the Affinity player might start casting something with 2 open mana. Just deal the rest? Oh, 3 open mana, excuse me, because of the Mox Opal. There's Pinnacle Emissary. In response, going to crack 3 munitions tokens with the Claws of Gixes, dealing 6 damage. And that'll do it for game 2. All tied up in this Affinity mirror match. Thank you all for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. As I mentioned, we're actually going to be kicking up the channel a little bit. We're going to start putting out some more videos over the next couple of months. Some more time has become available. So we're really going to dig in here. Make sure to like the videos, comment on the videos, hype the videos where you can if you have that availability on your YouTube. And of course, hit the bell. Though people ask for that all the time. But it definitely lets you know when our videos come out. We're kind of targeting Mondays and Thursdays generally. That may not always be the case. But for sure, back on to Mondays every week that I'm not sick. And getting some more content up on Thursdays as well. And hopefully you guys enjoy it and support the content. With that, we are going to move on to game number 3. All right, we are back here for game number 3. This Affinity mirror match. Looks like both players keeping 7 again. Starting off with a breeding pool, taking 2. Into a Mishra's Bauble. Mox Opal. And a Vexing Bauble. Not a bad start there. Oh, and then also Emery, I guess. After initially passing there. It happens. Game state hasn't really changed much. There's a Kappa in the bin already. That matters. Spire Bluff Canal. Casting in Engineered Explosives on 1. So a potential way to deal with that Vexing Bauble to then possibly unload their hand. Here in the future. Drawing for turn. Tough spot here. You are underneath your own Vexing Bauble. So I guess probably one of your better plays here might actually be casting the Ravenous Robots in the bin. Looks like that is in fact the case. Ravenous Robot's a powerful piece from the Ninja Turtles set, which still hurts my brain talking about Ninja Turtles and Magic the Gathering, but here we are. Not that that's a bad IP, just, man, we really are focusing on other people's IPs more than our own at this point. Hopefully Reality Fracture, like Strixhaven, changes that a little bit. So many of those cards will just have a hard time reprinting if they have any official names. Oh, playing an island and passing here. Speaking of which, there's an island. Tapping the Emery. Targeting the Bauble. That is going to trigger the Ravenous Robots, but will get countered from the Vexing Bauble. Which matters here. Oh, is there? I mean, if there's a Kappa in hand, that's not bad. Okay, attacking him with Ravenous Robots. That'll bring us to 18 all. And passing the turn from there. Well, maybe not. Gonna crack the Bauble here. Affinity player going to blow up the engineered explosives. So in response, cracking the Vexing Bauble to draw a card. There was an Urza's Saga drawn for turn here. There it is. And that engineered explosives is in the graveyard. Two mana, weapons manufacturing. That's a way to get back in line here on board. Mishra's Bauble. Another Mishra's Bauble. And a third Mishra's Bauble. So possibly drawing 3 here in the near future. Looking at the top card. And cracking the other two. Could look at their own top card here, but I guess just not. Drawing 3 cards off of those Mishra's Baubles getting cracked. As an island. Drawing for turn. Oh, is that coming in untapped? I don't think that's supposed to come in untapped. There was a turn where a land drop wasn't played. So this is post turn 3. That is the problem with some of these Universes Beyond cards with these weird texts. That isn't like a Spirabluff Canal. So that should be entering tapped. Okay, here's Pinnacle Emissary. It may not matter, but it does matter. That does trigger the Ravenous Robots. One mana off the Mox Opal. Here's Haywire Might. That'll trigger twice. the Pinnacle Emissary once, and then the Ravenous Robots once. Haywire Might pretty good here when you're playing green in Affinity and taking out opposing weapons manufacturings. And going to do that here, exiling it, gaining 2 life. And hopefully not using this starting town. There's an Emery here. Oh, no. Okay. Vexing Bauble getting cast off the starting town here in the Emery. Then attacking in for 3. And that'll bring us to 15 to 20. Passing the turn. Saga going to trigger here. Well, unfortunately, that Vexing Bauble shouldn't be in play. Not that it mattered a ton, because getting rid of that weapons manufacturing meant a lot. But there could be a bunch of zero-costed spells in hand. This is the problem with starting town. It's you really have to keep track of what turn you are on. And when you don't have an online interface doing that for you. Well, here's weapons manufacturing. There is a Shadow Spear that'll trigger the weapons manufacturing. So 5 artifacts on the battlefield. Taking 3 off of a Sink into Stupor. And there is Kappa Cannoneer. I'll get 2 counters. 1 off itself, 1 off a munitions token. So with a Shadow Spear in play, this is a pretty good spot. We will see if ultimately there's a good answer here. I mean, the answer generally is there's an Emery on the battlefield. Urza Saga got played for turn. And there's a Kappa in the graveyard, and at minimum a Haywire Might in the graveyard now as well. So you can use the Haywire Might to deal with a Shadow Spear or the weapons manufacturing. And if mana gets a little wonky, we apologize. There is a Mox Opal that is in fact underneath the red player's score. Quite the wide battlefield. This is kind of what happens with Affinity. So Pinnacle Emissary is off the battlefield. Kappa Cannoneer going to get cast here off the Emery. Gotta pay for it. Okay, using all but one of the unsummoning sick artifacts, possibly using the Ravenous Robots, or maybe thinking about attacking in. Probably shouldn't, considering the Shadow Spear on the battlefield. The Kappa has 1 counter on it. Well, I guess we won't know how much damage this Vexing Bauble is doing. But that is a Kappa Cannoneer on the battlefield. Here's 1 mana. Ah, there's Shadow Spear. All right. Added another robot to the battlefield thanks to Ravenous Robots. Putting another 2 counters on Kappa Cannoneer. Here's Tamiyo Inquisitive Student. Looks like using Mox Opal mana. And then using 2 mana to attach the Shadow Spear to the Kappa Cannoneer. And attacking for 2. That'll bring us to 10 to 20. Untapping, drawing for turn. So at minimum, the Shadow Spear is going to get onto this Kappa Cannoneer more than likely. The Saga is going to float a mana. Go searching. So there'll be 2 more counters on this Kappa, at least. Finding Claws of Gix. Using the 1 mana off of the Saga and attaching it with 1 other mana to the Kappa. And here is an opposing Vexing Bauble. I'll put 2 more counters on the Kappa. And Kappa Cannoneer going to attack in for 11. By what it looks like. That clause was found off of the Urza Saga, so it gets around Vexing Bauble. So life totals will change from 21, or from 10 to 20 to 21 to 9. And going to use Claws of Gix here to kill a munitions token to take out the Emery. So no blockers for our Affinity player after attacking him with that Kappa. And now facing down, 11 plus 7, 8, at least an 8/8 Kappa. So that's 19 damage on the board currently. 20 if you attack in with the Tamiyo. And 21 if you just activate Urza Saga. So that should be lethal on a crackback with no mana to activate Claws of Gix. Kind of just had to go for it, though. Though that 1 more artifact trigger could have been pretty crucial. Tapping for a Pinnacle Emissary, that's an artifact. In fact, that's 2 artifacts. So I'll make the Kappa bigger. And that Kappa should have 5 counters on it. Here is one cracking a Vexing Bauble to draw a card. And there's a Mishra's Bauble that will get countered by the opposing Vexing Bauble. But 2 more artifacts come in. There'll be 7 counters on the Kappa Cannoneer. 2 of those robots and 1 of those drones can't attack. But attacking him with what can and scooping him up. Game 3, going to Affinity. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And we will see you all in the next video.